Fire. Where there was smoke, there was fire. The warehouse smoldered from within its walls with black plumes rising into the evening sky. Night began to fall after your search in Musitafu yielded no results, running through an amusement park rather than returning back to headquarters when called several times today by Shigaraki. You stopped to assess the entry points, finding the smoke pluming from the center of the building complex. Both Dabi and yourself checked your phones, finding yours was not the source of the call, before Dabi answered with that unassuming look on his face.
"What is it, nutjob?"
he asked, staring at the fires that lit the sky.
"Finally! Are you here?"
answered Toga, her chirpy voice causing Dabi's eye to squint a little. It only made you confirm who was on the other line.
Just outside.
"We have 2 lots of intruders inside. Mister is taking care of one, but the other... Oop! Gotta go!"
chirped Toga before the line was cut, leaving Dabi unimpressed. You watched him pocket his phone into his coat, reading his annoyance that was clearly plastered on his nonchalant face.
"Where to, fearless leader?"
you asked with a slight smirk.
Don't start.
He warned, staring at the fires.
The little wacko should be by the communications station. We'll head there first.
There was no sense of urgency from Dabi while he merely strode towards the headquarters, heading towards the large hole that ripped through one of its walls. You followed after just as languidly, yet still kept your eyes alert. After the years under Dabi's and the doctor's careful eye, you had learned how the both of them operated. Dabi's lack of empathy scared you at times, but his composure was the calm before the storm. He never felt the pressure in any surrounding he was faced, and you had learnt that on and off mission. Walking through the halls, you witnessed the exorbitant damage to the walls and floors, torn apart by what looked like large claws. You almost gagged at the sight of claw marks dragging blood down the hall with no trace of a body in sight.
Still squirmish,
gestured Dabi, his blue eyes staring at your reaction.
"It'll pass,"
you reassured.
"Just what the hell made these?"
We'll find out soon enough.
Suddenly, Dabi sprinted down the hall, turning quickly towards the communications room, not too far away. You followed, finding him immediately stopping by the broken double doors that had been smashed in by force, splintered into nothing. The room was quiet, only lit by the light of the television screens that monitored most sectors of the warehouse lot. It was covered in blood, smeared and splattered against everything, decorated by the mauled bodies that laid on the tabletops. You stared at the sight, immediately grinning while your distraught eyes attempted to ignore the churning feeling in your gut, breathing deeply.
The nutjob would have loved this,
commented Dabi in passing, while his eyes glazed over the television screens, spotting movement from each one.
"Oh, good."
You spoke through your teeth.
"I hope she got her fill. But this isn't her doing."
You watched the screens, spotting a number of soldiers quickly being mowed down. One screen revealed the training area, finding Mr. Compress confronting a few interesting visitors.
That must be Group A,"
you commented, watching Dabi's eyes find the same thing on screen.
Then where is group number 2?
questioned Dabi, finding something large rush past on screen and spilling blood into its camera's lens. You watch the same screen, finding two more figures walk past, their features muddied by the blood splatter that obscured your vision. Following on to the next set of screens that tracked this troop of intruders, you envisioned the map of the warehouse, tracing their steps in your head until the realization dawned.
They're heading for Shigaraki!
You realized through your teeth, turning to take flight down the hall.
Little one, why the rush?
Questioned Dabi languidly.
Toga is probably there!
You continue to make your way through the broken halls, following the plumes of smoke and the heat that radiated deeper in the warehouse lot. The fissures burned along your scars, glowing a faint blue in reaction to the growing heat. Good, you thought. As long as you felt the heat, you had ammunition until Dabi caught up. You started imagining if he was racing after you, or keeping to his own pace, until the sound of gunfire and explosions echoed ahead. Shigaraki's meeting room was not too far away, only separated by a large hall that had turned into a war zone. The cries of the front soldiers filled your ears until your eyes landed upon the scene. Blood everywhere. Bodies strewn around the room, with the only living hidden behind a barricade that blocked the entrance, swarming with soldiers shooting down a large creature armored to the teeth across its body. It was covered in blood, dripping from matted white fur, while it bared its large canines, snarling at the men. It was a wolf. A gigantic white wolf the size of an elephant, cornered at the end of a bridgehead with nowhere else to go but back, if it chose to. It paced to and fro, its haunches standing on end, while it snarled and gnashed its teeth. You stepped into the hall, feeling the warmth from your arms while you clenched your fists. The years spent as head of tactics had taught you many things, one of them being the art of guerrilla warfare. If the creature refused to leave, then trapping it was the priority. You spotted the beast's ears perk towards your direction, finding its eyes now on you, pacing with its claws on the concrete floor. Your feet treaded carefully while you circled its enormous frame, keeping your eye on its own. It continued to snarl, its snout pulling its jaws away from its gums. Its armor scraped against each of its plates, while you noticed bindings along each of its legs. A strange addition that didn't seem to serve a purpose, yet it moved without hindrance. A blood-curdling growl cried from its maw before it leapt towards you, bearing its canines on attack until a force pushed it away, burning its paws upon impact. The blue fluorescent flame danced around your circumference, shielding you until you noticed the beast slowly rise from where it laid. The paws were singed, yet it did nothing to quell the beast's antagonistic front. Fireproof? You questioned before it attacked again. And again. And again. With every hit, it smashed its body into your dome, somewhat ignoring the flames that singed its fur. The impacts coursed through your arms, feeling the heat escaping in a trickle. The fire was dying. The shield began to lose its integrity, until the beast's snout pierced through the veil, staring down at you with a bloodthirsty look. A roaring fire shot through the air and crashed into the creature, sending it flying towards the barricades that sheltered the entrance to the meeting room ahead. The beast growled while it tried to rise to its paws, slipping in its mess of a crash until you lowered your shield.
So, that's what we're dealing with.
Spoke Dabi beside you, your eyes turning to him at his lazy posture.
Where are the other two?
You scanned the room, finding nobody else except for the beast pawing at the dirty floor, its claws clicking against the concrete. I don't see them.
A distraction.
Mused Dabi.
Very clever.
He slowly strode further into the large hall while you followed him with your eyes, watching his hands glow a bright blue. The flames danced across his scars, its light iridescent before the large beast turned towards him, its black armor glinting against Dabi's glow.
Come on, puppy.
He coaxed mockingly while his flames grew brighter.
Play dead.
A blast of roaring flames shot from his hands, scalding the beast's armor and singeing its fur as it cried and snarled from the heat. The force was immense, while you felt the heat radiate around the room, fueling your quirk while your forearms began to glow, the iridescence pulsing with the beat of your heart. It was a rush, a sensation that exhilarated and yet overwhelmed you. Too little gave you nothing. Too much forced the adrenaline to pump harder. Dabi's flames burned into the beast until he pulled back, finding the large creature still on its paws. The armor glowed an iridescent red, piping hot against the fur, while patches of its body were singed. Yet the beast's maw appeared from the smoke, baring its teeth at Dabi.
Fireproof.
Mused Dabi curiously before the creature charged towards him, leaping in the air with its canines menacingly snarling at the lieutenant. You didn't think. You moved on your own with a swing of your arms, crossing them with a forceful pulse of energy surging from you. A large dome of fire grew around Dabi and yourself, the blue brightly lighting the hall with its incandescence. The blast caught the beast off guard as it crashed into the blue burning flames of your dome, sending it flying back onto the ground. The wolf shook its head, its snout curling into a menacing snarl at you.
I was fine.
Spoke Dabi with a snarl of his own.
I know,
You answered nonchalantly.
but I wasn't.
You held your arms up high, feeling the heat swim around your head and through your limbs. The fissures continued to glow brightly, still following to the beat of your heart. Dabi hummed to himself, more so in contempt, before he paced a few steps before you, shooting more flames towards the beast that darted around the room, leaping and hopping off from its walls with grace despite its size. You breathed deeply, concentrating on feeling the heat grow inside, your arms pulsing with every shot Dabi made through your shield. It only fueled your quirk, growing exponentially stronger from the dousing of Dabi's flames. You felt everything that hit the dome. His flames, the creature's attempts to break through, even a minute amount of energy could cause a ripple through you. Your hands clenched while you tried to suppress this energy, noticing your arms now glowing alight with a searing heat. Dabi ceased his fire, staring at the creature's golden eyes that bore into his. Faint smoke wafted from its burnt and matted fur, while the stench reeked of curdled blood.
What are you?
Asked Dabi, still curious. All that was returned was a snarl and a scoff from the beast, lowering its head and raising its haunches through the burning steel on its back.
Don't mock me, scum.
It breathed.
You are a disgrace.
Your arms shook from the energy that coursed through them while you still held the shield. However, you spotted a turned look on Dabi's face, reacting poorly to the insult thrown from the beast. An anger bubbled within, shown on his once previous apathetic expression, contorting his lips into a disapproving frown.
Big words for a mutt,
Sneered Dabi, his hands aglow once more.
Let's test how fireproof you really are.
He blasted another burst of flame, charring the creature's body where it stood before it leapt and bounded around the hall. Dabi's rage grew, as did your quirk's source of power, now with your arms alight. This was it. The time had come to test a theory about this new ability. Your body couldn't contain such raw power, and it had to be expelled somehow and elsewhere. You eyed the beast's movements, waiting for it to cease from Dabi's onslaught, watching its paws scrape the floor before you made your move. With your arms growing brightly, you ran towards the beast head-on. Your firewall dissipated into nothing more than air, breaking all concentration you had.
Pipsqueak!
Cried Dabi, annoyed by this sudden change of plan in his head. You felt the adrenaline rush through your veins before you slid past the beast, its jaws missing you by the skin of its teeth. Upon closer inspection, you noticed the armor had a mount of some kind attached on the creature's back. Grabbing hold of its reins and pulling yourself up onto it.
Shoot!
You yelled, while the wolf bucked around, attempting to gnash at your arms and legs.
Shoot!
Dabi watched while you wrangled the creature, his eyes staring at your arms glowing a cold iridescent blue. He exhaled with a swing of his arms, shooting a large burst of fire towards the buckling beast but striking you instead. The sudden jolt of heat and power coursed until you felt unable to contain it any longer. You grunted and took a deep breath, feeling the surge well up inside until you struck your arms like a match. A massive explosion of blue flames engulfed the beast and yourself, flooding the hall with immense heat and force. Dabi shielded his face from the raw power of the blast, unperturbed by the rush that hit his skin. He squinted through the dust and debris when it quickly settled, spotting nothing with very little visibility. It was silent. Then the dim light of your arms glowed through the smoke, lying on the dirty floor. Your body was eerily still, while the silhouette of the beast appeared above you, its maw close to your head. Dabi shot another blast into its face, causing it to wince a little from the burn. He witnessed the damage you've caused, finding the armor cracked and the beast's body marred with burnt fur and flesh.
So, not fireproof.
Commented Dabi towards the wolf.
Just a nuisance.
Snarled the beast through one eye upon its bloody face. Dabi raised his hand before him, engulfed in a blue flame that smoldered his entire being. His blue eyes glowed against the light, glaring at the creature until he noticed its ears perk. Its demeanor suddenly changed. no longer snarling and aggressive, but pensive and almost concerned, catching Dabi's eye. It immediately took off past him with a giant leap, ignoring his flames that licked its underbelly before escaping the hall from where the both of you came. The crackle of flames that still hung from Dabi's presence lingered on his arms for a moment while he stared after the beast. A highly tolerable quirk that is resistant to even his flames not only concerned him, but it annoyed him.
Dabi!
Piped a voice from behind the barricade, catching his ear before the short silhouette of a young woman hopped over the makeshift ruins of it.
Ah, it's you.
He droned while he doused his flames.
Of course, who else?
Continued Toga while her smile beamed brightly.
I knew you'd show up.
Dabi scoffed before he knelt by your body, finding that you were still responsive whilst your fingers twitched involuntarily. You remained unconscious though, your breath shallow, whilst the blue glow slowly dimmed upon your scarred forearms.
Oh, is Boo Boo okay?
Asked Toga, now with a fleeting tone of concern.
That was a big blast.
They're fine.
Bluntly replied Dabi, picking your body from the floor.
A trip to the dock should help.
Yeah, but we gotta help Mister.
He can handle himself. Find out who that mutt is. I want to know what its game was.
Dabi ignored the groans of the few soldiers that appeared from the barricades, leaving Toga behind while he carried you through the decrepit and destroyed halls. He couldn't recall if the doctor was in, but still pressed forward to be sure. Eventually the gunfire and chaos ceased, leaving only the sound of crackling fires dying out from the invasion. Dabi could not hear a soul, staring down at your unconscious state.
You're taking too many risks, little one.
He spoke, more so to himself than towards your unresponsive self.
I can't afford that. Not this second chance.
His voice dripped with disdain, until he reached the doctor's room, opening the door with a hefty kick. He found nobody. Perhaps the doctor wasn't in tonight, he thought. There were rumors of her previous ties with the Commission, but other than that detail, she was a free agent to do as she pleased, mostly advising on certain individuals, those she called potentials for her experimentation, however that scientific mind worked. You were one of them, he continued to recollect, remembering that month of December when the former League attacked the school, a plan that was planted in Shigaraki's head, one made between him and the doctor to fulfill her needs, and his.
You're such a nuisance, but you proved useful in a few ways.
He spoke aloud. Dabi laid you on one of the few stretchers that lined the large room, leaving you unmoved from your almost uncanny catatonic state. The sentimentality he held years ago came and went like tidal waves, between your judgment and anger against him and his apathetic approach to you. It was a mess. His large hand brushed against your cheek while it pushed your hair from your face. He leaned in close, holding your head to his, pushing you into his cheek while he felt the warmth from your breath burn on his skin. You were still suffering the effects of the blast. His smile pushed against your cheek, lightly brushing it against your skin.
You'll be unstoppable, little one.
He whispered.
And nothing will stop the both of us.
Thank you for tuning in to another fanfiction reading. If you enjoy what I do or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please hit that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to my channel. I am actually very excited to tackle the villains of the Pro Hero AU sense. There's just so many ideas around them that have been accumulating over time, considering I've been focusing more on the pro heroes themselves. But hopefully I'm able to pump out these stories as quickly as I can and feed you as much entertainment as possible. Thank you for visiting. I hope to hear from you soon. Next we meet.